Kites for sale. Roll up.
This film is about a man who has a dream.
Can somebody buy one of these, please?
His dream isn't to sell as many kites as possible,
They work and everything.
although that might be nice. No, his dream is to go to a land which is absolutely miles away and one of the most remote islands on the planet.
Can I ask you a question? Have you heard of Pitcairn Island?
But since no one seems to have heard of it,
Now, can you repeat that again?
Pitcairn Island,
Where?
he wants to make a documentary about it, even though he's just a kite salesman with no film crew.
On the morning of the 28th of April, 1780.
Then maybe people might take him a bit more seriously.
Help, I'm in a knot.
Oh, and that bloke with the dream? That's me, Julian McDonnell. But getting to Pitcairn won't be easy, and I probably won't be the only one following my dream.
My luggage is not even here.
No problem. Yeah, problem.
It is not safe.
What sort of business are you running?
You're gonna have a miserable bunch of people in there.
Julian!
Freezing. You're here at last. Excellent. It's just too cold to sell these kites, so I'm officially packing away for the winter, and I'm going to head off to Pitcairn Island, which is something I've wanted to do my whole life, and I'm quite excited about it. So I'm going to make this film, and I really want it to work, because if it doesn't, I'm just going to end up on this bridge for the rest of my life selling these kites. I don't actually know how to get there, to be honest.
Where is it?
It's in the Pacific Ocean, right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
I've never heard of it.
Now, getting to Pitcairn won't be easy because they don't have an airport, and the only way to get there is by boat.
Is that a boat you'll be travelling on to Pitcairn?
Not one like that, I don't think. They only actually get sort of 2 or 3 supply ships there every year.
The other problem is that my friend Simon can't come with me to help me film.
So I'm going to have to do the whole thing using a couple of these fun little camcorders.
Go on.
Well, I don't know what to say.
Well, what's so important about
Well, I
this
just
bloody
already
place?
told you.
Tell me again.
Right, now, one of the most amazing things about Pitcairn is that just 50 people live there, and they're all descended from just 9 British sailors who were on the run after stealing a ship called the Bounty in 1789. And they used this uninhabited island as their hiding place, which is why I want to go there, because it must be really weird. I know, there people live there, 50 people.
50.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope that you
They even made loads of films about it, like this one with Mel Gibson and Anthony Hopkins and Marlon Brando.
The Mutiny on the Bounty was the biggest media event of the age, and they became the most infamous fugitives in British naval history.
Many great film stars have stood here at this helm. Marlon Brando, Johnny Depp, and now the great Julian McDonnell. And this chap.
Of course, this isn't the real Bounty. That got burned in Pitcairn Island. But this replica gives me a good idea of what it would have been like as I follow in the footsteps of the famous mutineers who set their captain adrift in the middle of the ocean and headed off into the unknown. Like all good adventures, it started down the pub.
So this pub's called the Town of Ramsgate in Wapping in London, and legend has it that this was the last place that Captain Bligh, who was a captain of the Bounty, came for a few pints with some of the other shipmates before they set off to the South Seas.
This is excellent. They probably came down these stairs and then just stepped onto a barge or something that took them off to the Bounty, and then they went off to the South Pacific. Of course, after the mutiny, after they set their captain adrift, they knew that they'd be hanged if they were ever caught, so they had to go off and find a place to hide, which is why they ended up in Pitcairn Island, and they burnt their ship, and they ended up staying there for the rest of their lives, never to be seen again.
This burning of the Bounty has been celebrated every year on Pitcairn Island since 1790, and my goal will be to film it. But I'm not the only one obsessed with getting there. Bob's wanted to go there his whole life.
Middle of the South Pacific, Pitcairn Island's 3,500 nautical miles to any point of land.
And so has Tony, who sailed around the world twice, but still hasn't been to Pitcairn.
More people have visited the South Pole in the last 5 years than have visited Pitcairn Island. It's just so hard to get to.
No problem for an old sea dog like me, then.
Okay, look. There's a guy called Graham, and he does these trips around the Pacific Islands. Like, oh God, it costs like $3,000. Gonna have to sell a lot of kites, man.
Since I can't afford it, Graham says I can go for free, but only if I do some work on the boat first. It's a 4-week scientific research voyage led by Graham, but he isn't the captain. That's this guy called Paul.
Back off, Julian.
Who hasn't been told about my brilliant nautical skills.
This looks easier on the brochure.
We're somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
We're running out of food.
Broken down.
I just wanted to sort of apologise for, you know, any kind of bad feeling and stuff. I made it quite clear to Graham that I know nothing about boats.
Whilst I'm not quite driven to mutiny, the captain doesn't think me much of a sailor, so I have to get off the boat early.
Gotta say, it's not for me. I'm pretty damn pleased to be off there.
He says he'll still take me to Pitcairn, but we need a break, so I get off in Samoa, where I'm replaced by Felix. He's also obsessed with getting to Pitcairn.
There's a lot of mystery around Pitcairn Island, and I was just always fascinated in going there. And I was to be the deckhand on the Southern Cross, going across to Tahiti and then up to Pitcairn Island.
His first job will be to reposition the boat 2,100 miles from Samoa to Mangareva to pick up a load of passengers for Pitcairn. I'll meet them there later, but this frees up some time for me to go off to Tahiti and find out about the Bounty's original mission. You see, it went something like this. The Bounty's mission was to collect breadfruit plants from Tahiti, where they were greeted by gorgeous tanned women. The crew were having a great time stuffing their faces and running around with all the girls, especially Fletcher Christian, who had fallen totally in love with the chief's daughter.
God, I love you.
But Captain Bligh was just there to get breadfruit plants.
There'll be no more fraternising with these damn degenerate native girls!
Shut up, you miserable bugger.
So when they had to leave, no one wanted to get back onto the boat.
Damn your blood, you've stolen my coconut!
I took one only. I thought it of no consequence.
The crew couldn't take it anymore,
We're taking a shit!
so they seized Captain Bligh at gunpoint.
I am in hell, sir! Hell!
I'm shooting the bugger!
Bligh was then set adrift in the middle of the ocean with 18 other men, with no maps or food, whilst the Bounty sailed off into the unknown, never to be seen again.
Are we there yet, Dad?
Meanwhile, Captain Bligh had been sent to almost certain death, but against all the odds, he managed to sail for 48 days and reach the Dutch East Indies.
I am a British naval officer, and I would like to report an act of piracy.
Anyone got a toothbrush?
Tahiti's pretty far from the paradise I'd been led to expect. Where are all the beautiful women and famous warm Tahitian welcome? I like what the French have done with the place.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can find one of these blessed uru, the breadfruit plant. I've come to the market here in the centre of Papeete.
When the Bounty was here, they exchanged gifts for these fruit, so I decided to do the same.
Est-ce que vous avez uru? C'est combien?
300 francs.
I finally found an uru.
Uru.
J'ai un cadeau d'Angleterre pour toi.
Ouais.
Le plus petit cerf-volant de monde.
Ah, okay.
It's nice to see how much it means to her after I've come all this way.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Voilà.
Yeah, don't mention it, love. After a lunch of raw breadfruit in Matavai Bay, where the Bounty was docked, I meet a remarkable character who is also obsessed with the mutiny on the Bounty. Don McIntyre is attempting to recreate Captain Bligh's incredible boat voyage after he was set adrift in the middle of the ocean. It still amazes me how he managed to survive for 48 days with hardly any food and no maps.
I've located the nutter that is Captain Don McIntyre, or Captain Nuts, and you are actually attempting Bligh's historic journey. I mean, I've had a look in there, and it doesn't look like very comfortable for sleeping, and you're going to be incredibly cold, and are you going to have to bail water out constantly like that?
It's not. This boat's not same as Bligh's, not self-riding, and we'll be bailing a lot. You know, there's no question. Same deal. Apart from that, though, we're putting pressure on ourselves by not having a support boat. and we're only taking the things that Bligh had. So we have the same weight of food, but it's still only a small handful of food every day for 48 days, and we'll try to catch fish and we'll eat them. But we'll be hungry, we'll be starving.
Yeah, it sounds like, because I mean, I'll just draw your attention to some of the things he says. Some of my people seemed half dead and I could look no way, but I caught the eye of someone in distress. Our situation was now extremely dangerous, the sea frequently running over the stern.
That doesn't worry us. I mean, obviously we have all sorts of safety gear, and if we have to use it, we will, but we've minimised all the risks, so we're not expecting to have to be rescued.
Will you have charts?
No charts at all.
So all from memory?
Well, sort of. You know.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
You are my hero. Maximum respect to you, sir. You're a complete madman, but I very much admire you.
So whilst Captain Nuts sets off to recreate the voyage made by Captain Bligh, I'm off to follow in the footsteps of the famous mutineers. I'm supposed to meet up with the Southern Cross again, but an update I get doesn't fill me with hope.
All is not well on board, have suffered hull damage. They think they hit a log, but are unsure what it is. She's not calling a pan yet, whatever the hell a pan is. I will call them again at 19:35 this evening to make sure they're okay. Bev, fingers crossed. It just doesn't sound safe. I'm a bit worried about going on it. God's sake.
Despite this worrying news, I decide to go ahead with a plan, which is to meet up with them in Mangareva and sail on to Pitcairn with them. If they haven't drowned, that is.
Jesus, it's got bloody propellers, that plane.
On the plane, I meet Bob, who'll be getting the same boat as me after having paid several £1,000s for this trip of a lifetime.
Time came and off we went, and we arrived in Mangareva, and I was really actually quite excited.
In fact, all the passengers that I meet have been looking forward to this trip for months.
What's your name again?
Tony.
Tony, yeah, you were telling me you've got some artefacts from the Bounty and stuff.
I have a reasonably large collection of Titanic artifacts and a few pieces from the Lusitania.
Come over to my house and you can drink some wine from grasses recovered from the Midoriya.
Well, I think I'll get to know you first. A lifelong dream?
It's been a while, yeah. It's been about 30 years I've always wanted to come here. We're not there by the 23rd. We'll make our own little coconut boat and we'll burn it ourselves.
I've got a feeling I can feel a mutiny coming on as well.
I don't like the whole setup.
We've arrived here in Mangareva to get the boat to Pitcairn, but I knew it was going to be a complete balls up.
Pacific Expeditions responsibility. I mean, they should have had the boat here waiting for us.
The boat isn't here. It's at sea. Apparently it's probably broken, and even if it does come, we're going to miss the festival on the 23rd, which is like the anniversary of the Bounty landing. The guys are so pissed off. The people have paid like thousands of pounds to go on this trip, and their faces are just dropping.
Problème, mais money. Graham, no money here.
He doesn't pay. Graham non est payé.
No, I'm not paying.
Graham is the tour organiser, but he doesn't come on the trips to Pitcairn.
Boat coming here. The Southern Cross is coming here.
The Southern Cross, le bateau, arrive.
Possible today, I don't know.
My French is a bit rusty, but I do my best to understand his strange dialect.
You spoke to Graham?
3 hours.
For 3 hours?
Give money.
Oh, you asked him to give money?
Et Graham speak no.
But luckily, I'm saved by Morris.
Oui. No, he's saying that he's been in touch with Graham, and he said to Graham that it's his responsibility to pay for us to be lodged if the boat's not here. But apparently that's not what's happening. Apparently we have to, it's on our own.
We've got to fend for ourselves.
My luggage is not even here. My luggage.
There's this big argument going on behind me because the guy who Graham told to come and meet us here, everyone's blaming him. So he's trying to say, listen, let's all go to my house and we'll go and have a coffee and talk it out.
I'm a bit worried that we don't know how long we'll be stuck in Mangareva, and apparently we can't use credit cards to get any more cash. And more to the point, we have no idea who this strange man is, but he says we can stay at his house.
What do you need to know from Graham?
I think the most important thing is the boat afloat? Is it coming or not?
Graham? What? It's Maurice here. Oh, Maurice! What's the story? Because the people here are saying that nothing's been paid for and that we don't have any accommodation and...
Okay, no worries. The boat is in some bad weather and had to shelter behind an island and get fixed up. So I just have to find some money until I can get you guys paid.
Chances of getting there on the 23rd? 0.
He won't tell me his name because he doesn't want it exposed to the world, but we're going to make some coffee and we're going to have a nice discussion about what we're going to do.
Je vais trouver de la bouffe.
It's like 2 days, it's no problem. He has a freezer, he'll find
Maintenant,
food
le
for
problème,
us.
il est... Ça, c'est privé?
Huh?
Privat?
Oh, you want me to turn up?
You take the banana here, please. You look. Oh my God!
Eventually, he tells me his name's Eve, and he does his best to entertain us.
Why you take her? Oh my God!
You told me to be.
You take her.
You told me to be careful. But this delay makes me a bit grouchy, and I'm not entirely sure if this bloke's a genuine.
I was doing it.
Ah, voyage, Slowly. Non, tire comme ça, vers le bas.
For some reason, I'm here picking avocados. I like avocados, they're good, but I don't want to be picking them. No, that's not the reason I'm here. Wow, these are nails which have been prized from the actual bounty.
But it's not long before the novelty wears off, and we soon run out of things to do.
I didn't read this on the brochure.
Oh, it's small print.
Small print, eh?
Back at Eve's house, we meet a Dutch couple who have been travelling for the last 20 years and are top of the Google list of the most well-travelled people in the world.
And now we are travelling and we sold everything after retirement.
Everything, like your house?
Everything, the house, the car, also our bikes.
Yeah, we are already for 8 days, 9 days here.
But some of the things we hear make me wish I'd done a bit more research.
It was a group of 5 Americans. They came here for diving and going to Pitcairn, but they were looking for the boat. That was an ancient catamaran from ground.
These Dutch guys are just telling us 5 Americans came here diving, but they took a look at the boat and they just said, no bloody way, we're not going on that. And so they just left. My sister's just texted me on the phone. She goes, if you have the internet, check out a review of the March 2009 trip where nearly everyone decided not to go.
We floated with little or no power in the middle of the South Pacific in 1 to 2 meter seas while attempting repairs.
She was so dehydrated at the hospital, it took 6 tries to find a functional vein to initiate rehydration.
I think there'll be a mutiny like on the Bounty. He was leaking. He was
not prepared to take the risk.
Catastrophe scénario.
And by dinner time, Eve's cranking it up too.
Hello, help me, le boat, help.
And that's when he went to the town hall and got the ferry boat to go help them and towed them back in.
Really, huh?
Chaque fois que je connais Graham, quand il est venu ici, il y a toujours eu des problèmes.
It's too bad.
Chaque fois, moment please, chaque fois, il y a un nouveau capitaine. Pourquoi? Parce qu'ils ne payent pas les capitaines.
Oui.
Il y a un nouveau mécanicien. Pourquoi?
Any business, are you changing? Bad news.
I've just had a text from my sister and she's been in contact, well she's got an email, and apparently the new estimated time of arrival is on Friday, that's in 48 hours.
When the Bounty was in Tahiti, they also got delayed by several months, and this is often cited as the reason why Captain Bligh got so angry. With all this uncertainty, I'm starting to get an idea of how he felt.
You know, when you think about it, I'm in probably the most beautiful location I've ever seen. I mean, it really is so nice here. It's lovely, but I've been overcome by this depression today. It's insects everywhere. I've been overcome by this depression, and I just feel so upset that I think that I'm scared to get on this boat. It's a real shame. It's a real shame. I find it really difficult to enjoy myself here.
I agree. It's just been very funny. I mean, how everything has just been so good and so easy. And yeah, I've got your money. Thank you very much. And I've got the second instalment. And he hasn't sort of sent me a receipt even. Or, you buy an air ticket, you get a.
Yeah.
Or there's always. I thought, bloody hell. And then hearing what everyone's been saying, my God, it's all beginning to. It's gnawing at me.
And by the third day, we start to feel our dreams slipping away.
This is a surreal situation which I can no longer handle. I don't know whether to laugh, cry, fall over.
Übermorgen, ja, na, bitte die Wahrheit sagen, stop.
Thursday you said first, and now it's Friday.
I've never missed a department flight.
Stop, shut up, Graham, shut up.
He's going to give somebody an IOU to give us the money?
If you want an invoice, talk to Eve and he'll write you an invoice. Tell me if you want to let me know. You don't want to let me know, so then don't say you want to let me know.
I can't get out of here. I've even looked at the bloody flights. I can't get out of here. There's no flights. It's just driving me crazy. I'm stuck in hell.
I hope my dream goes true. We talked about it several times. My dream.
This is total lack of management, and I'm very, very surprised that you have not got anyone organised to be here in such eventuality. I mean, it's all been just dot and carry one. Thank goodness Eve has been just fantastic. Now, what sort of business are you running? You're controlling the whole thing, and he's the captain, all right? And it's teamwork. Obviously, there's not teamwork.
Well, one of my dreams that
Okay, so I've stopped having fun now, and I'm pretty pissed off. I'm just like really tired. I want to get back. I want to get out of here.
What are you on?
Lots of you together.
No, I said what I think.
No problem. I know. No, moment. You give money.
I still find I'm very angry about the trip to Pitcairn. There's a place I'd always wanted to go to, and I just thought it was going to be fine. But then everything started, it just got more and more bitter.
Whatever you want to say.
Fine with you.
Why are you being the way you are?
Yeah, why are you being the way you
I'm the way I am.
Yeah.
I don't like going in big packs. I'm independent. I do my own thing.
Can I say we're sorry and start again?
I can keep quiet.
I was supposed to go to Pitcairn. It's not going to happen. I'll have my own holiday on this island the way I
You
want.
see, you don't want to. You're always... If that's the way you want to be.
Make it pleasure.
Did you think that? Okay, I make a pleasure.
He's trying to open up
I'm
to
trying
you.
to say sorry if that's the way you were.
He's trying to be nice.
Oui, merci pour le...
Pacific Expedition. Southern Cross. What time you here in Mangareva? Pacific Expedition. You speak German? Next contact help you. Okay? Pacific Expedition is here.
On the radio?
I don't know, I don't speak English.
Finally, just as I'm thinking of changing my name to Bligh, the Southern Cross limps into sight.
There she is.
Is it official? Oh, it is.
That's her.
Wow.
The Southern Cross is here. It's finally arrived.
No, leave that last. Leave that last.
The red last.
The boat's arrived, and Tony and Morris are going to go and negotiate.
I'm going to translate. I'm not here to negotiate.
All right.
Give me one light.
How safe is the boat?
It is not safe.
To go in this boat across the South Pacific, in no shipping lanes, no nothing, no opt-out. You're on it or you're not.
If we get a strong wind and the sails are up, the bowsprit will break and the mast will fall down.
That is...
And it will if he does not sail smart. We're probably going to have leaks here, but the water's going to go in there.
So it's going to come into the bed?
Look at all the wood, it's already splintered off.
You're going.
You want to see this?
Yeah, but you're going on this trip. Fuck me.
There's bits falling off. It wasn't like this.
We've just travelled over 2,000 miles, and we've had to deal with whatever the weather throws at us.
The boat was in bad shape after the crossing from Samoa to Tahiti. It was in bad shape.
If he puts his sail up in the front, something's going to happen.
I would have cancelled the trips out to Pitcairn Island.
Meanwhile, the captain's girlfriend, Chrissy, has to try and get fuel for the boat.
Do you have the whiskey that Graham has promised him?
I knew nothing about the
Est-ce qu'elle a les caisses de corned beef que... No whiskey. No go to Pitcairn the day. C'est ça que l'autre con de Graham il comprend pas. Ah là, no problem, no problem, no problem. Yeah, problem.
The thing that's really pissed us off is that they've probably got enough fuel to get there and back, but not enough for emergency, so we're just expected to go and find fuel for them. Because I asked about the fuel and I said, is there enough fuel? And
It's an unknown answer because how long is a piece of string? You don't know how much fuel you're going to use.
He says if he didn't come to help us, who would have done it?
Exactly.
Do you want to know what Chrissy asked the police officer? She had me translate this in French. If someone died, we have elderly people on our boat. If somebody dies on our boat, what are the formalities? I had to translate that in French to the police here. What do I do if someone dies?
I was a little bit puzzled that someone might die on the boat to Pitcairn. I mean, was there really no protocol on anything?
I don't know if it was a joke, but she asked me to translate.
That's really fucked up, man.
Is that the situation you want to be in? Do you want to see someone get killed?
We weren't sure of the law on it. Paul thought that a good idea would be to take blood samples, photos of the body, eyewitness accounts, basically get as much information as possible on what we think happened to the victim, and then tie the body up in an old sailcloth, put some diving belts around the ankles and the head, and tip the body overboard.
And, you know, yeah, extreme fear. Pure fear of whether this boat is going to get us to Pitcairn Island, and will it get us back?
I'm actually in fear of that.
Yeah,
but
I would be.
But there's life rafts on there. That's the first thing I'm going to do is learn how to use them.
Hey, Sherry!
I guess what we need is for two people to agree to share a double berth.
I'm definitely not bunking with bloody Tony because he keeps trying to grab my arse.
Like a single one. Up on the bar somewhere.
I want to bunk with Margot.
You will?
Yeah, I volunteer myself.
I volunteer myself.
That was sort of my way of saying, this is ridiculous. I'll bunk with Margot. And everybody thought I was serious.
Margot and Maurice are going to share the double
Right on.
the middle down here.
Like the bounty, huh?
This is unreal.
No?
This is unreal.
I have to get my pillow.
Okay.
I can't live without the pillow.
Oh, you can go through. Oh, wow, it's an ensuite. Hey there. Bon voyage.
Get out of my cabin.
Welcome.
Get out of my cabin.
Welcome aboard. Oh, look, you have a portal.
You think I can fit out there if there's an emergency?
Yeah, that's your emergency hatch. That's great. Now that I've seen the sleeping arrangements, I'm gonna go get my bag. I'm not going.
Jesus, man.
I'm not going.
I don't blame you, man.
Gonna spend it in something. Box of non-perishable food.
Fuck you know.
You're going to need it more than me.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, my friend. So long.
So long.
Have a safe trip, my friend. So long.
We were sailing from Mangareva, which is known as the islands on the edge of the world, and we were going to leave the edge of the world and go into some of the remotest islands on this planet. And there's no help out there. There's no helicopter. There's no RNLI. There's no help.
I'm used to this.
Get this passage.
Yeah. But this is not a good boat either.
He's not.
That's for sure.
Before heading to Pitcairn 220 years ago, the crew of the Bounty went back to pick up some Tahitian natives. Some of the crew didn't fancy their chances sailing on into the unknown on the Bounty, so they stayed behind.
Go home! Stupid man!
Auf Wiedersehen! Auf Wiedersehen!
I'm still pretty scared of Captain Paul, to be honest, since we didn't exactly get on too well when I was working on the boat with him before. But he seems okay this time. Maybe it's because he's got someone like Tony to help sail the boat. Maybe getting to Pitcairn won't be so difficult after all.
Apparently we're going the wrong way. Where's Pitcairn?
Over there.
Pitcairn is that way, and we're heading that way.
Well, we're at least 90 degrees off course.
Oh.
Yes, like I said, should be pretty easy from here.
It was bucking like a bronco. I mean, the bowsprit was actually going into the water and back out again.
Huge waves, very high winds. We were in
went to 50, 60 knots, which was not comfortable.
That whole thing there, see, this is the bulkhead that keeps straight. Look at it, it's all, the whole ceiling and everything, it's all caving in.
My bed is soaking wet. I feel sick. This food is giving me really bad stomach aches. And my bed's too small. I just can't wait to get off this boat. I just can't wait. Holy shit. Huh? Oh, what did I drop? Oh, there we go. That's kind of amusing you down there. It's like making me laugh.
If I had no, I should really get my umbrella out. See, that would be just wonderful.
I'm soaking wet.
Yes, sir.
Poor old Bob. He can't get into any of these bunks because he's got 2 metal hips and he's had a back operation. It's pitch dark in here as well. The whole thing's falling apart. There's all these things like sticking out of walls and stuff. Jesus, I've had such a rough night.
Well, there was something crawling over me.
Some people say I complain too much. At least I've got a bed, unlike Felix. So the mutineers, led by Fletcher Christian, set their captain adrift.
Good on you, Fletcher. Sure, this is a good idea.
But they knew they were in big trouble, so they set off in search of their own desert island where no one would ever find them. They sailed for weeks and weeks, wondering if they'd ever find a place they could call home.
These people need a home, Christian.
But just as they were giving up hope, they finally caught sight of the island of Pitcairn. Everything was brought ashore and the Bounty was burned, ensuring they'd never see England ever again.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm still alive.
Are you ready to party?
With each hour that passes and our eyes fixed on the horizon, we keep on looking and keep on hoping.
We saw Pitcairn Island for the first time as a little bump, and then it got bigger, and then it got bigger, and then it got bigger.
I just kept looking and looking, and all of a sudden there it was.
After 2 days of sailing and a whole lifetime of waiting, Pitcairn Island finally appears on the horizon, just as I imagined. Pretty amazing to think that almost 230 years ago to the day, the Bounty was coming straight down this stretch of water.
And I just try to imagine the relief on the faces, well, especially of Fletcher Christian, because I think he probably had a mini mutiny going on, because all the other mutineers were beginning to lose hope that they'd ever find it. And I must admit, I was losing hope that I'd ever get here myself.
It doesn't make sense what they've written in history that she went down to latitude where Pitcairn was and sailed along it. That's going to be my first question over dinner to the descendants of the mutineers.
Mine's going to be, what the hell am I doing here?
Indeed, finally. From here we can swim.
The sea around Pitcairn is too rough for larger boats like ours to dock, so a couple of locals have to come out to get us.
You coming?
Now, Bob will spring into here, no problems whatsoever. He's tough as old boots, is Bob.
Wasn't watching the drill, was he?
When I was on my mama's knee, hey ho, well I did. She rocked me like a boat at sea, hey ho, me down. And every time I cried, my mama flogged me handsomely. Hey ho, shiver me, make the sailor I would be. Hey ho, shiver me, make the sailor I would be.
It's a pretty inhospitable landing over here, and of course this jetty behind me wouldn't have been here back in those days. It was all just rocks. So everything of any use off the Bounty was painstakingly taken off and lugged up this, which is called the Hill of Difficulty. And I can see why, because even just walking up it is bloody exhausting. And I can't only imagine they actually lugged the ship's anvil up here, which was still in use until the 1920s here on the island.
A loyal young man, they said, was I. Hey ho, men I did. When I sailed the sea with Captain Bligh. Hey ho, me down. I made it back to dry land with the tale to tell or two. Hey ho, shiver me, make the sailor through and through. Hey ho, shiver me, make the sailor through and through.
So there's Bounty Bay down there behind me where they burnt the Bounty, and these commemorative plaques indicate the names of the various protagonists in the incident. On this one over here they've actually got the names of the Tahitians who were brought here, and on this one they've got all the mutineers. Christian, Adams and Young and the other mutineers are all remembered here, along with the Tahitians, some of whom were actually kidnapped and brought here against their will. I still find it amazing that just 50 people live here, and they're all descended from the mutineers. I'll have my work cut out though, because I've heard that they don't like being filmed. And in fact, when the BBC came out here with Ben Fogle, they had to turn back. I'm hoping the same won't happen to me.
It's the Hill of Difficulty, is it? Yeah. I read about this.
Luckily, my hosts, Terry Young and his sister, are really friendly.
Yeah.
Let me see.
That's the mark, and that's the
British Navy kind of mark.
The British mark, yeah. They're from the Navy.
So what was it then?
Hole in the main keel. It was down in the ground about that deep, about 4 feet.
Yeah.
Then a New Zealand chap, you grab it, oh it's nothing, throw it in the bush. I went right over and pick it up and told him it's from the Bounty.
Nice one. Wow. I'm holding history in my hands. Cool. Oh, so this is Brenda Christian.
No.
No. Oh, I can't remember. Oh, what?
Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm Betty Christian.
That's what I said, Betty.
You said Brenda. When the Bounty first arrived at Pitcairn, it was very rough, and they circumnavigated the island looking for a place to land, and then they drove her in as close as she would go, and then they burnt the Bounty on the 23rd, and so that's why we celebrate Bounty Day every year now on January 23rd.
Excellent. Unfortunately, today is the 24th of January, and we've arrived a day late.
We came to see this.
So I'm pretty upset that I've missed my only chance of ever filming this event. But then, finally, we get some good news.
They had actually delayed it by a day because they knew we were coming, which I thought was lovely, actually.
These are the yummiest breadfruit. The trouble that caused the mutiny.
At last, something finally goes right as the islanders prepare a feast for this special celebration. And after stuffing my face, I'm in for an even bigger surprise.
We had a replica of the Bounty made of cardboard boxes, and lo and behold, Julian was there with a lighter, lighting the Bounty.
If you like. Fewer than 219 people in history have ever lit the Bounty on Bounty Day. And on the 220th anniversary, the honour's all mine.
In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore.
That was a real privilege. I'm so pleased. And they allowed me to burn it. That's really nice. That you're a big horror. Behind me is the exact spot where the Bounty rests forever. It seems like a good place to sit and contemplate the feeling they must have had as they watched it burn, knowing that they will never ever see their home or civilization or any of their loved ones ever again.
As you'd probably expect, not much of the Bounty remains, and all that's left of her is a few bits of wood and metal. But other boats have proved that if you're not careful, you can easily come a cropper in these waters. I hope our captain knows what he's doing. Before long, there was resentment amongst the Tahitians who had been brought here against their will, and everyone started murdering each other.
I wasn't expecting that.
McCoy concocted some lethal alcoholic drink and ended up falling off a cliff. Meanwhile, a paranoid Fletcher Christian would sit for hours in a cave, terrified that an English ship might discover them. Time passed, and little was known of the fate of the mutineers until 20 years later, when an American ship found the island and was greeted by a boy who spoke English.
Say, you ain't from around these parts.
He went ashore and discovered just one surviving man, John Adams, along with 10 women and 23 children.
You never remember my birthday? Too many to remember.
And their descendants remain there today. And that's how this remarkable community came to exist on one of the most remote islands in the world.
So there's nothing that way except Sydney, 7,000 kilometres. London is that way, 14,000 kilometres. How do I know all this? Well, it's quite scary actually. We sure are a long way from everything up here. How cute. What's her name?
Miss T.
Miss T. How old is she? 1934. Boy, I think I've just seen my first tortoise poo. Is she grumpy? Oh, hello. Looks like a bit like E.T. I'm trying to lift her up with my back. Bloody hell. She weighs a ton. How cute.
Within 2 years, all the men on the island had either died of illness or had been murdered. The only survivor was John Adams, who is the only one with a gravestone.
When a whaling ship passed 20 years later, the crew were amazed to be greeted by a young boy with dark skin who spoke perfect English. That turned out to be Fletcher Christian's son.
Great-great-great-grandson, Fletcher Christian. Oh, right, so he looked a bit like you then, is that what he looked like?
I think maybe some Polynesian, I don't know.
Oh, well, it's nice to meet you. It's your family's fault that we're here.
Thought just occurred to me that John Adams would have been in his 20s when he first came here, and he died when he was 65. So he spent 40 years on this big island. And I mean, I've been here for about 3 days. I'm ready to go. And we've got TV here as well. What did he do all that time?
Because we arrived late, we haven't got very long on the island, especially since a cyclone's been predicted. And as the weather turns rougher, I start to wonder if the boat will be able to make it.
I can't hear you. It's too loud. Go on, kids. We will miss you as you journey on your way.
I was having an incredible time, but it was slightly tainted with this, why are you on this island when you're leaving that boat out there unattended?
Island is so tiny, encircled by the sea.
If the anchor had slipped, the boat would either drift out to open ocean, or it would drift onto the island and it would be washed ashore as a shipwreck and would be castaways.
Someday we'll meet again on this partisan strand.
Bravo! Bravo!
Everyone had their fingers crossed that the boat would be there in the morning. But overnight, the weather got worse. The wind picked up and the waves got bigger. It was about a 4-metre swell.
With the anchor coming loose, the boat would have to be moved to a safer mooring. So Captain Paul and Felix will have to tackle 4-metre waves in a rubber dinghy to get back on board.
One of the sides of the inflatable was slightly deflating. One of the islanders said to me, Greenpeace were here and they had a bigger inflatable boat than you have and a 90 horsepower outboard and they were on the rocks. 90 horsepower. We had an 18 Tohatsu engine. Paul's driving this little tender. The only other person in this tiny little inflatable is me. So I'm posed with this situation of, you need to get onto this yacht.
By them!
It's a moment of just running completely on adrenaline. I was terrified. I was a bit battered, a bit bruised. I was starting to get tired. And I seriously thought, I have so much to live for, and I thought, I'm getting on this yacht. I remember thinking, thank goodness I'm wearing a life jacket, and I thank Randy Christian to this day for giving me that life jacket, because if he hadn't of, I think I probably would have drowned, to be honest with you.
With only one day left on the island, there's still one really important place I need to film.
I mean, I've come all this way. I really wanted to sit in Christian's Cave and look out and see exactly the same view that he saw.
Christian's Cave is one of the main attractions on Pitcairn, and if I manage to get there, I can safely say I've achieved my dream.
Fletcher Christian's Cave was once used as a hiding place of Fletcher Christian when there was a bit of rebellion on the island.
It has a sort of mesmerising presence which taunts you as if Christian himself is beckoning you to come and join him.
Well, there she is up there, Christian's Cave. I'm not sure if I can make it. It's been raining as well, and it's a bit slippery. Fletcher Christian would sit up there as a recluse on many occasions, just staring out to sea, watching out for passing ships.
To get to it, you have to go along a cliff face. And if it's too wet and you slip, you quite easily slip to your death.
Everything's got a very charmingly simple name out here in Pitcairn. They've got places called sort of Tom Fall Off and John Break Leg and Break Him Hip Point and stuff like that. I don't want this place to be renamed Joolzy Break Neck.
Christian's Cave from the Christian house was only about a 15-minute walk. It's really not that far away. The first 2 attempts, I had to turn around and turn back. It was just too dangerous.
Oh, I'm really pissed off. It started to chuck it down with rain, and it's so difficult to get up this hill.
The hillside was very steep, loose gravel, not a lot of brush to hold on to. It was really quite barren, and because of the rain, it was wet and slippery.
When I come all this way, I really wanted to make it to Christian's Cave, but I tell you, man, he must have been really fit.
I'd actually even leave all my camera gear and everything behind and try and climb up, and then it would just come to a point where I realized it was stupid. I was just slipping too much, and I would go back down.
I better get down before I get in trouble.
I had got right up to the entrance of the cave, and for some reason didn't go in. And I just thought I'd come so close.
I remember making it into the cave, and I just put down the camera, and I actually remember feeling choked up. To me, it's what it was all about, was getting to that cave. To me, that was, anyway, probably the most emotional part of the island. It's like the crowning pinnacle of Pitcairn.
The next day, it's time to say goodbye to this strange land, and the islanders bring out the longboats, which is a bit late for Felix, who could have done with it yesterday, but it's fine by me, since I don't fancy drowning.
Got like a spring chicken.
Jay then just revved the engines, very powerful engines, and off we shot out into the Ogden.
Oh, we are go.
As we say goodbye to Bounty Bay, I feel a sense of gratitude that we're doing something that Fletcher Christian and the others never did. we're leaving Pitcairn.
Maybe we can stay on this boat.
But just as I'm beginning to rejoice that we finally got back to Mangareva in one piece, there's time for one more drama as Chrissy suffers a horrible accident.
We were walking along here and I don't know how, but she somehow slipped on here and then went over there head first onto that rock where you can still see some of her blood, and it was pretty rough, man. That was a horrible fall.
This nurse and ricketeer.
So she's got about 100 stitches in her head.
What a state. What a mess. Oh dear. I shall certainly be choosing Mangareva for my summer holidays next year. All the best to you, Felix. Yeah, give us a report. Let us know how it all goes. Goodbye.
Oh, one more thing. It's been emotional.
I wonder what it is about this part of the world that makes people do crazy things. Perhaps it's the lure of the open ocean and the human desire not to be defeated by it. Maybe that's why the mutineers set their captain adrift and sailed off into the unknown. Maybe that's why I wanted to make this film. Or why people like Captain Nuts and his small crew are prepared to sail for 7 weeks with hardly any food just to recreate these amazing adventures.
This morning when we came in the pass, it just hit us. I said, wow, we just sailed this little boat 4,000 miles and we had all these little dramas and the whole sort of deprivation thing on board. We had a couple of serious scares. We nearly went up on a reef one time because we were sailing without charts, the same as bligh. So we had some serious challenges, but we had lots of satisfying moments, just being able to achieve that.
Yes, I think I know exactly what he means. I set out all on my own to make a documentary about one of the most remote islands in the world. And with the help of a few friends I made along the way, I can safely say that dreams can come true.
I was really excited to go to Pitcairn. For me, that was a dream. I still want to go to Pitcairn. It's not off the list yet.
Without question, I will be back there again.
We had got to Pitcairn Island and back. I don't think I have felt quite so nervy in all my life. I mean, I've worked in all sorts of different places like Somalia and North Korea and what have you, and really I would never have gone on that boat, but I needed to get to Pitcairn Island. Ambition satisfied. Box ticked.
So after North Korea, Somalia and Afghanistan, if Bob could survive the trip to Pitcairn, he could survive anything. Well, almost. And as for me, well, I've ended up back selling kites.
Thanks very much. Splendid.
But surely people will have to start taking me seriously now.
That's the wrap.
Won't they?
William Bligh was the captain that day, always in a fury with a bad word to say.
Away, boys, away, be good to your captain and don't turn astray.
Fletcher Christian was first master's mate, but then his friendship turned into hate.
Away, boys, away, be good to your captain and don't turn astray.
One night in April, asleep in his bed, Bligh was awoken with a gun at his head.
Away, boys, away, be good to your captain and don't turn astray.
Captain Bligh was set adrift in a boat, and against all the odds he stayed afloat.
Away, boys, away, be good to your captain and don't turn astray.
Fletcher Christian, along with Burkitt, Churchill,
Christian sailed on with 9 mutineers, 8 of them dead in a couple of years.
Away, boys, away. Be good to your captain and don't turn astray. Away, boys, away. Be good to your captain and don't turn astray. Away, boys, away. Be good to your captain and don't turn astray.